Let me read to you a passage from the 7th chapter of St. Mark, verses 24 to 30. It's the Gospel for Thursday of the 5th week of Ordinary Time. St. Mark writes, Jesus went to the district of Tyre. He entered a house and wanted no one to know about it, but he could not escape notice. Soon a woman whose daughter had an unclean spirit heard about him. She came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophenician by birth, and she begged him to drive the demon out of her daughter. He said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She replied and said to him, "Lord, even the dogs under the table eat the children's scraps." Then he said to her, "For saying this, you may go. The demon has gone from your daughter." When the woman went home, she found the child lying in bed and the demon gone. Well, that is from the 7th chapter of St. Mark, verses 24 to 30. And what thoughts does that passage give rise to in our minds? In our Gospel passage today, our Lord goes into the district of Tyre, which was considerably pagan. His entering a house secretly to avoid being noticed suggests that he has come to this district to get away from the crowds in Galilee and Judea and from the persecuting Jewish authorities. He wanted a respite to continue his intensive formation of his apostles, for time was limited. But the house was not to be the hideout he had hoped, for word got round, and as we read, soon a woman whose daughter had an unclean spirit heard about him. She came and fell at his feet. The woman was what Mark calls a Greek, a Syrophenician by birth, and she begged him to drive the demon out of her daughter. Let us imagine the scene and contemplate the pagan woman who comes insisting that he drive the demon out of her daughter. Her love for her daughter and her helplessness before her plight drove her in her prayer. She appears out of nowhere, and once the favour is obtained, she disappears into nowhere. Her untold story is a picture in miniature of the broken human condition and Satan's presence in it. She, a Greek as Mark calls the Gentiles, bespeaks the natural man's crying need of a Redeemer who will deliver him from the power of the underworld. In man's history of superstitions, fortune-telling, astrology, spiritism, New Age, and countless other fetishes, the Syrophenician woman is surely an example to all of who it is that man ought turn to for relief from the thraldom of evil. Christ was visiting her pagan land, and she heard about it. She had the good sense and the good fortune to come to him in her desperate situation. Most importantly, she placed her faith in him, such as that faith was, with all its limitations. She shows that natural man can respond to the news of Christ and rise to a certain level of faith in him. But more revealing is the response of Christ to her words. She came to him, and he rebuffed her with words that did not seem to be kind. Her request did not attain its goal immediately. Of course, we are not told whether Christ said these words smilingly or somewhat severely, but our immediate impression suggests that he did not say them with a warm smile, though we know that charity and compassion filled his sacred heart. His response was a test, and this test reminds us that God can choose to test those who come to him, including those who come to him for a favour without what we might call a developed faith. Christ chose to test the pagan woman with a none too flattering image. We read that he said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." His own mission was almost exclusively to the children of Israel, especially to their lost ones. They were the children, as he called them. And let us say in passing that our Lord's words to this effect remind us of the faithfulness of God in looking after his own, in this case, the house of Israel. He sent his own divine Son to dwell among his chosen people. Our Lord's words to the pagan woman remind us that those who are members of the church he founded are the object of his special love, his faithful love, a love manifested in the person and in the abiding presence of his Son among us. And his response to her, assuring her with warmth that her faith had saved her daughter, reminds us that all those who come to Christ in faith can expect from him what is best. Therefore, we who are disciples of Christ ought bring to all word of his person and presence, inviting them to go to him in their need. But they must go to him in faith. The Syrophenician woman is an example of this. The challenge is then to believe enduringly, with perseverance. All too often, people came to him in their need, and then once the need had been met, their interest in him diminished, especially if his teaching was too hard. One presumes the Syrophenician woman had no more contact with him. Christ abides in his church, and our mission is to speak of him to all, and to tell them where he is to be found in his fullness. Christ was there in the region of Tyre, and in a house unbeknownst to most, but word got round. Let us do all we can to bring Christ to all, most especially to the poor and to those who are suffering any form of affliction,